Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Thank you, Madam Chair, members, senators. Today I present to you AB 351, which is the California Liberty Preservation Act. Congress has passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which contains provisions that could be disastrous to the preservation of constitutional rights. The NDAA would give the executive branch, not only under the current president, but under every future president, unprecedented power to detain U.S. citizens without judicial review. You know, I can't help but note that here in our own state, we have a chapter that we commemorate and we remember so that we will never do it again, which is the detainment and the internment of Americans of Japanese descent. You know, we hold these ceremonies and we hear a lot of people say a lot of words. AB 351 gives us the opportunity to make that promise that we'll never let this happen again a reality. It is a very simple bill. It prohibits any municipality, any law enforcement agency to use state funds and to participate in the indefinite detainment of anyone on California soil. You know, after recent revelations over the past few weeks and months of the government abusing its power, I think all of us should remember that we swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. And when the Bill of Rights, it's interesting, almost half of the Bill of Rights is devoted to protecting the individual and the rights of the individual from an all-powerful government intent on prosecuting it. And oftentimes, particularly in the case of a terrorist act, we see a tremendous amount of zeal that goes into that prosecution. And I think the founders understood that that could eventually happen, and that they wanted to protect the rights of the individual, the rights of the citizen, from a government that wants to steamroll right over them. And, you know, I think of what happened in Boston. I mean, look, I'm the first guy that's going to tell you I am absolutely committed to stamping out terrorism. When I see tanks rolling down the street, they're civilian tanks that police agencies operate, and I see the tremendous, unbelievable amount of power that we have, then we have to have on the other side a tremendous amount of protections. And the Constitution was meant to be a set of handcuffs on that power, to restrain it, to shackle it, to control it, so that there would be a balance, so that we could have due process. And right now, there is no due process under the NDAA. If the federal government decides that you are a terrorist, you have no rights. And you could just literally disappear without a court hearing or anything else. And I think we should say on California soil that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, that every one of us swore an oath to uphold and defend it. And not only us, but I would also like to point out one of the most unusual coalitions I have ever seen. This bill is supported by ANSWER, by the Coalition to Act Now to Stop War and End Racism, Siskiyou County Supervisors, the ACLU, the City and County of San Francisco, Supervisor David Chu, Republican Liberty Caucus of California, the 10th Amendment Center, Taxpayers for Improving Public Safety, the San Francisco 99% Coalition, the Gray Panthers of San Francisco, the Bill of Rights Defense Committee. And I would also like to note that there are a number of other states that have done this, and they have not lost any federal funds. This does not prevent in any way the federal government from exercising its authority where appropriate. And also we have been joined, prior to this bill, cities such as Berkeley, Fairfax, Santa Cruz, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors passed a resolution opposing the indefinite detainment provisions of the NDAA. And I would ask for your support today.
Thank you. Witnesses in support of the bill?
Madam Chair and members, Francisco Labaca on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union, and the Assembly member has sort of spoken with respect to what the bill does. The bill essentially makes it clear that local government actors are never used to assist in any military detention without charge or trial of persons in California. This bill is consistent with many, as the Assembly member says, with many other similar statutes and resolutions passed throughout the country. In fact, the statute as it comes to this committee is almost identical to a Virginia law on this issue. It will protect the civil liberties of Californians. It's a good bill. We urge you to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Warren, Taxpayers for Improving Public Safety. No need to be redundant. We support the bill.
Thank you. Others in support? Speakers in opposition to the bill?
Hey, right here.
Pardon?
Okay, yeah. Alex, you're here on behalf of We Are 1776, and we support this bill.
Thank you. I thought you were a staff member. Sorry. You're the right age. Hello.
Michael McDermott, Men's Civil Rights Advocate. I wish to see this bill modified to include the civil rights of the disposable male minority. I remind you, next Saturday, June 29th, is the annual tax-subsidized, government-supported anti-male hate riot known as the San Francisco Dyke March. It bans male citizens from the public street because we are male, no different than banning Japanese citizens from our cities because of their race.
Thank you very much for your comment. Okay. Are there questions or comments from the members of the committee? I tend to think that this is a very good bill, Assembly member. There was a comment from the California attorneys for criminal justice that referred to recent amendments making the bill overly broad, but I don't see any of them here today to comment on that. I couldn't actually tell what that was from reading the bill, but seemed like a comment that I had hoped would be explicated a little bit in the testimony.
Madam Chair, Francisco Labaca with the ACLU. I mean, amendments were taken in the Senate Appropriations Committee actually to narrow the scope of the legislation. We've reviewed it. It put in a knowingly standard to the extent that the opposition has any concerns. I'm sure the Assembly member, if there's some tightening of the language, would consider
because I thought the language was quite tight.
We've looked at it and we're comfortable with
it. To not vague constitutionality, but specific sections of the act of the NDAA. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'd like to move the motion.
There's a motion to move the bill to. It is a due pass to appropriations. I'm happy to support your bill today. Would the Secretary please read the roll?
Agenda Item 3, AB 351, due pass to appropriations. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson?
Aye.
Anderson, aye. Block?
Aye.
Block, aye. De Leon? Knight?
Aye.
Knight, aye. Liu? Steinberg?
Okay, that bill does have enough votes to pass. We'll hold the roll open for the absent members.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators.